I'm not here to argue with you. Hey, yo, enough is enough. Many Palestinians say Hamas must accept ceasefire plan. Don't forget that enough is enough. Some of you know where I'm going, some of you don't. So, New York Times, this article came out an hour before I'm doing this. So, let me show you something. Not a whole lot to say in this article, but, lower in the article, Hamas has not yet given its response to the proposal, but interviews with Palestinians in Gaza on Wednesday suggested widespread public support for the plan. If you go through this article, there's more than one place where the people say that, they're sick and tired of it, but Hamas, they care about themselves and they don't care about the people. Big surprise. Some of you know about this, some of you don't. Enough is enough. Do you remember that from the article? Well, if you've never seen this before, there was a Illuminati card game that came out in 1995, and it had several prophetic type things in it. And tell me this picture ain't Donald Trump. 1995, don't forget. If you like the conspiracy stuff, don't forget that they changed the money after September 11th. And if you fold the money in the fancy ways, the money that was printed prior to 2001 had, the Twin Towers burning on the back and the Pentagon and, all that sort of conspiracy type thing. The government has admitted to using remote viewing. And it makes me wonder about things like this. It makes me wonder about things like The Simpsons. How many of you know about The Simpsons season 16, episode 19? I'll refer to it later. I was discussing this situation with my wife last night, and there's a lot of support and a lot of pressure. The Muslim countries are pressuring Hamas to accept the deal. Trump says that all the other countries have accepted the deal. There's internal pressure from the people in Gaza. And the thing that you would expect to happen is that Hamas would just say no. But there's also the threat on the table that Trump and Netanyahu said, well, if you say no, then we're just going to bomb your face off. But I was thinking about it. We're just days away from October 6th and 7th, which is the Julian Feast of Trumpets, if you're on that train. If you're not, then I'm not here to argue with you. However, we're talking just days before the potential acceptance or denial of this plan. How much would the whole world say peace and safety if Hamas accepted? I mean, it's already been said in the past. This post is several months old, but mediators proposed 7-year Gaza ceasefire, IDF withdrawals, and release of all hostage from Hamas captivity. So I don't recall the date on this, but a lot of people said in my video, this is the covenant. They're like, well, if it's not 7 years, then it's not it. Look, they've been talking about it. It's already out there, but it's not public knowledge because the devil doesn't want to show his cards. I find it curious that even though the Dawn is bragging on this peace plan, saying that, it's the most important moment in civilization, it's an eternal peace plan, it hasn't happened in thousands of years, these are all things he said. But then, the very next day, he's got Hegseth telling people, prepare for war. I did a previous video talking about this called King Trump and Palestine, and I covered the Albert Pike prediction from over 100 years ago where he predicted the 3 world wars, his predictions for 1 and 2. And of course, this guy is a 33-degree Mason, so this is like the devil's prophecy. So his prophecies aren't going to come to pass exactly how he wants. However, what he said about the Third World War was that they would set the Jews, the Israelis, against the Muslims, and their goal was mutually assured destruction. Now, the Bible says that, that's impossible because God preserves his people and his land, and that there is a remnant that will be taken out of them. I understand that there's, certain sects of the Jewish culture that are not godly. I get it. However, if God doesn't keep his promises to the Jews, he's not keeping the promises to yous. So, he says that when people are morally, spiritually, physically exhausted with, atheism versus Christianity, Jews versus Muslim, everybody versus everybody, he says that then they will be looking for a place to point their worship, and then he says, then we'll expose the pure light of Lucifer, which is a lie. If you're here on this channel, you should know by now that Jesus Christ is Lord. He's the only way out of this death trap. So I find it insane that people do not think that we're at the time. We have major news outlets saying that the massive comet hurtling toward us is larger than previously thought. Could be alien technology. It could change everything for us. In that New York Post, it says the Manhattan-sized interstellar object is much bigger than first believed, 3 miles wide, 33 billion tons. Its strange acceleration, odd tilt, and path near Mars, Venus, and Jupiter have Harvard scientists suggesting it could be alien technology. And then 3-Eye Atlas, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. If you don't see the escalation of this narrative, then where you been? Countdown begins 63 days until alleged alien spaceship reaches Earth, sparking global speculation and excitement about extraterrestrial arrival. I think everybody saw it last week, but the Prime Minister of Great Britain said that if you don't have a digital ID card, you're not going to work. So basically he's saying, take the mark of the beast or we're just cutting you off. This is a screenshot that I grabbed months ago. This is this current map of the Starlink satellites orbiting Earth. So you're telling me we have the alien narrative to cover up the rapture. We have the infrastructure for the mark of the beast in place. We have them throwing around World War III threats, and there's an eternal peace covenant on the table. But we're not here. No way. I didn't want to forget to follow up on this thought, but season 16, episode 19, I forget the title of it, something about doomsday. But basically, this is a picture of exactly what's going on when I was talking about remote viewing. Homer starts believing in the rapture. He does some calculations, and then he stands out there with all the crowds supporting him, and then they miss it. He goes back, he changes his calculation to a 13 from what it was before, and 13 is what got his calculation correct, and then he gets raptured. So, spoiler alert. But, check it out if you're interested. Make no mistake, this is where we're at. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. You guys should know the list. It's right here. Pause it, read it. Because I want to talk to you about it. Last night I was out at dinner, and a kid sitting behind me must have been maybe 10, had a Pantera hat on. And, when I was a kid, some of you, I don't know the demographics of my viewers, honestly. I came from a time where we were watching Mr. Ed, the Brady Bunch, Andy Griffith. I remember Elvis gotten in trouble for shaking his hips on TV. But, we live in a generation where, you just hand a kid a cell phone and just let him TikTok his face off and, let him play Grand Theft Auto till he's sick and Call of Duty. There's just something about this generation that we have lost touch with, we don't even know what evil is anymore. We don't even know what sin is anymore. When I went out to dinner, it's like the whole world around us has no clue what's going on. And righteousness and doing good and treating people right is just such a foreign thought to people. There are people that do it, but, within the generation that I'm talking to, there's people on here that remember the times that I'm talking about when things were normal. You were raised in a Christian household. You were allowed to talk about the Bible. Everybody had an assumption that everybody was Christian. Obviously that's not the case, but at least there was some kind of cultural leading in that direction. And yet in this generation, it's so foreign to people. Sometimes I talk about, Bible prophecy, or even just, if I talk about certain doctrines in the Bible, people come unhinged because they're just not raised on it. It's totally foreign to them, and because it's weird, they reject it. So I'm trying to make the connection that this generation is like the frog in the boiling water. Instead of jumping out, the water just gets hotter and hotter, and the frog just gets used to it till it's dead. So not only is it like a kid being willfully exposed to music like Pantera when they're 10. Like, I didn't listen to that till I was like, 22, and I was like, dang, this is hard. And it's like the drug culture, the music, the stuff on TV. It's like, when I was growing up, you were lucky if you got an edited movie on network TV. We had 5 channels. I remember a Michael J. Fox movie. They edited out all the profanity, and he said, "Slug in a ditch." Anybody remember that, or is it just me? So I'm just talking to you about how far gone the culture is in one generation. We went from Andy Griffith to now people are looking up to, I don't know who the latest people are, like, Taylor Swift and what's her face, Katy Perry, Cardi B, all these people. They'll do demonic Super Bowl stuff, and nobody even flinches at it. They're like, oh, it's just, it's art. The point I'm making is that the world that we're living in, they don't even know they're corrupt. When God was talking to Noah, saying, build me a boat, and get in the boat, the earth was corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. God looked upon the earth, and behold, it was corrupt, for all flesh corrupted his way upon the earth. This generation now, they don't even know. You read the Bible, and the stuff is so foreign. Like, people get hung up on Old Testament stuff. God was showing that by the law, no man can keep it. No man's able to keep up to God's standard of the law, which is why Jesus had to come and offer grace and say that, like, look, you can't keep the law, but I can, and I'm willing to stand in your place if you'll accept me and receive me to make you a new creation and become born again, because without Jesus, you're hopeless. It only took one sin for Adam and Eve to get kicked out. It only took one sin for Lucifer to get cast out of heaven, like, thrown down like lightning. So all I'm saying about this is ask God if there's things in your heart, in your mind, in your house that, are not lining up with him, that things that he wants you to get rid of, because we let the devil in our house when we let the devil in our house. The things that we just look away and say, oh, it's just a thing. Like, somebody was talking to me about Tool the other day, and this was a Christian. So no condemnation to this person. Don't take me the wrong way. But I said, look up the lyrics to the song Eulogy and listen to the end of it, or, read the end of it and tell me, is that something a Christian needs to be listening to? We got to cut this stuff out that the devil's just moving in and saying, oh, it's fine, it's not a problem. The whole earth corrupted their way. You need Jesus, because this whole thing's about to get wild. And I can't tell you if it's, in days or, I can't guarantee squat, but I can guarantee you that Jesus is the only way out. And no playing around. People are about to find out.